in from Portland. Hey, Jordan, what's on your mind?
I'm curious with the original owner of this car, Lars. He had said that his name was on the title.
Yes.
And Mr. Sitton had said that he had done his due diligence and checked on the title several times in the last 13 years.
Yep.
I'm curious what order he did that in, because if you do your due diligence, the point of due diligence, if I'm not mistaken, is to make sure that the purchase is a good purchase before you actually buy it.
I would think so, too. And
so did he actually check with the title company before he bought it?
Well, here's the problem. He says he bought the car with no title on it, and he knew that.
Right.
And then apparently when he called DMV, he found out that the actual name on the title was not the name of the man he bought the car from. And whoever it was that stole the car is scot-free at this point because the statute of limitations on car theft is 3 years. So nobody can.
On his end,
no, but
on his end, he did not check. He did not say that he
did. You're right.
Purchased the car.
You're absolutely right.
So
he didn't.
I'm wondering if the guy sits there and figures out, hey, there's two ways to look at this: too good to be true or too good to pass up, and he goes with the latter, too good to pass up, buys the car, and then starts thinking, oh, geez, this thing is, gosh, I should probably check and make sure this isn't stolen, and then does his due diligence at that point 3 times over the next 13 years after he purchased the car. I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose of what he just said. If he'd have done his due diligence, he'd have seen a name not his that came up on the title, which is legal ownership of the car.
Yep.
He would have never moved forward and purchased it.
And by the way, Jordan,
before he wrote the check.
I use DMV from time to time now, although the state of Oregon has made it a lot harder to get a hold of information from DMV. You have to file a formal request, and you have to pay a fee and all the rest of this stuff. But if he got the person's name, Mr. White's name, he could have also said what's the address of the registered owner on the title. And he could have then narrowed the list of 20 Richard Whites down to 1 and called Mr. White and said, hey, I've got this car, but I bought it, and you're listed as the legal owner. I'd like to get a free and clear title. He never bothered to do that, which, you know, in the back of my mind, that tells me if somebody says I'm 90% of the way of finding out the name of the person who can sign off and make sure I can go ahead and get the title, but I'm not going to actually get in touch with him, it might be because he knew that if he got in touch with the guy and said, hey, I've got your car here, I'd like to get a title for it, that the car would have gone back to the original owner.
Exactly, especially if he decided to do his due diligence, as he said he cleared himself with after he actually purchased the vehicle, because had he done it before, that should have been all he needed. As soon as he did that due diligence, if he actually did it before he wrote the check for the car, holy cow, this car's not even in the guy who's selling it to me's name. I better not buy this. He never would have purchased it.
Well, and the fact that and one thing people should remember, DMV does not run for stolen cars. Not always. They might do it occasionally, but there have been a bunch of crash and burns where people have bought cars that they thought were titled appropriately, and they checked with DMV and said, is it stolen? And what DMV doesn't do is they don't go ahead and bother to check the state police database and find out if it's on the hot sheet, which is something the Oregon DMV and the legislature should fix. Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. Glad to be with you, and glad to take your calls at 866-HEY-LARS. That's 866-439-5277. Emails go to talk@larslarson.com. On Facebook, it's The Lars Larson Show. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Lars Larson Show. It is always a pleasure to welcome back to the program a good friend of the program, Dinesh D'Souza, the